Hi, my name's Renee Dawson. I'm a special education teacher and technology specialist at Long Middle School in Atlanta, Georgia. Understanding the needs of the whole child have always been important to teachers, but those needs were magnified after the pandemic. Last year, I discovered this free tool from Digital Promise that lets you identify the factors impacting your learners and then see research-based strategies that can be used to address those factors. Let's take a look at this tool so you can see how impactful it can be for you and your students. First, create a free account at lvp.digitalpromiseglobal.org. Once you've created your free account and logged in, go to Tools and Workspaces and My Workspaces. From here, click on Make a New Workspace, give it a title, click Submit, and it'll take you to the Learner Model Factor page to select the learner model for the student you're looking at with the Learner Variability Navigator. Let's say we're looking at a student that's struggling in literacy and that's in 5th grade. We would select literacy 4 through 6 to see the factors impacting that student. As you navigate through the factors related to each other will highlight. That's pretty cool to me. You can choose your factors from here, or I like to go to the strategies page and pick my factors from there. So let's say that our student has adverse experiences in literacy. They come from a low socioeconomic status. Sometimes they lack motivation. They also struggle with attention and lack background knowledge in literacy. This will give me 9 strategies that they recommend for my student. Let's say I want to take a closer look at multimodal instruction. When I click on multimodal instruction, it takes me to the strategy overview page. It'll give me an example video of the strategy being used. It'll also give me additional examples, professional development, and research to back up the strategy. It also tells me what other factors are supported by this strategy. If I like that strategy, all I have to do to add it to my workspace is click the plus sign. So I'm going to add a couple strategies to my workspace. Then I can go back in and look at my workspace. My factors and strategies are listed on my workspace. I can also add a section to add more strategies. I can add notes and reflection here. This is the Learner Variability Navigator. It's a wonderful tool for teachers to use, but you can also help your students understand their own learner variability with this tool or with the many lessons provided by the Learner Variability Project. Please explore the Learner Variability Navigator to learn more about your students and find research-based strategies to help address the factors that are impacting their learning. Enjoy! Bye!
Hi guys, I'm going to be talking to all of you lab science teachers out there about my absolute favorite resource that I've ever used for teaching lab sciences. It's called Pivot Interactives, and I'd like you to take a look at some of the really cool things that it does and how it's made my life so much easier this year. Okay, so here we've got my personal library. Now these are a collection of activities that I've gathered. Now I teach AP Bio, and so a lot of these activities are going to be specific to that subject. But they've got a ton of different subjects that you can end up looking at: astronomy, biology, chemistry, earth and space science, environmental science, physics, you name it, it's here. Now, when you actually are looking at these particular activities, it's interesting to note that not only are they good to illustrate these concepts, but they're also good because ultimately they're going to be showing, so this is an activity called Sims Intro to Cells, but they're going to be showing pictures and images and videos of things that are much, much better detailed than anything students are going to be able to generate by themselves. Now, what I'm not saying about this is I'm not saying that this is a total replacement of hands-on activities. This is a supplement. You can also end up having previews of labs that you would want to use in class. So this would be gel electrophoresis. You can load it, you can clear it. And then what makes it even better when we're talking about assessment is students have to then select answers for multiple choice questions that allow them to get immediate feedback. Because one of the biggest problems we have whenever we're teaching labs is how do you actually give feedback to students in the moment? There's one of you, 30 of them. So Pivot allows for not just them to get that immediate feedback, it also provides for background information for them to be able to answer additional questions, and it even has open answers for them to write in as well.
There's not a lot of setup to it, which I think like one of the worst parts about lab is setting up and then taking everything down. I'm really glad that my class uses Pivot.
In conclusion, it is my favorite lab resource and a great assistance for any teacher that needs a little bit of help on those days that you just don't think that you can handle pulling off labs for 5 sections of 30 students at a time. Good luck with everything. I wish you well.
Hi, my name is Allison Stone, and I am a high school biology and human anatomy and physiology teacher in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I'm here to talk to you today about how Pear Deck has made me better at formative assessment in my classroom. I began using Pear Deck during the pandemic to get students to participate, even if they didn't want to turn their cameras on during virtual classes. I continue to use Pear Deck for a number of reasons. One of them is because it allows for equitable participation. Students are able to participate in a question. They can give their complete answer. I can scroll through and make sure that all students have completed their answer before we move on. This is better than me just calling on random students in the classroom where I'm only getting a sample of 2 or 3 students. I can now see the answers of all of my students. Additionally, it's better than mini whiteboards because even with mini whiteboards, I may not catch that a student hasn't fully completed the question. So Pear Deck gives me that opportunity to give students the wait time that they need. Pear Deck is also great because I can share student responses and they're totally anonymous. So again, if I were using mini whiteboards in the class and a student made a mistake, everyone would know which student made that mistake. In Pear Deck, I don't have to worry about that. I can share the results with the whole class. It doesn't show the students' names. And if there is a student who maybe didn't know the answer to a question and wrote a question mark, we're not all looking at that person, right? They're able to keep their anonymity. And for students who are in high school and middle school, that's so important for their own participation and feeling safe in class. I love Pear Deck because it gives me very accurate formative assessment data. So if I were using mini whiteboards in a class, I might not be able to look at every single student's mini whiteboard. Same thing, if I were sampling answers, I may only get 1 or 2 student answers if I were just calling on students in class. But when I use Pear Deck, I can look at every single student answer. Even if I don't have time in the moment, I can go back and look and see what students have answered when I'm done with the lesson. And that way I can check in on the students who are still struggling. Another great feature of Pear Deck is it allows me to give personalized feedback. I can assign a Pear Deck as an exit ticket, and it might not be a whole class activity. Maybe students are working on it in a self-paced manner, but I can always go back through and then give personalized feedback to those students. I then can share the link for the Pear Deck that we did the previous day, and students can go in and see what their feedback was. This is great for targeted improvement. Lastly, I use Pear Deck for social emotional wellness check-ins, and this is a great way of also assessing where students are at the beginning of class. So I might give them a fun meme like this and then ask them to move their icon to where they're feeling that day. This gives me a really good feeling for the whole class of where we are and what students' capabilities are going to be that day. I hope you'll consider adding Pear Deck to your teaching repertoire. I think it's a great way to get student data and then also respond and provide feedback to students in real time.